All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Now, when a lot of us hear the word research, we instantly picture something super dry. Scientists in stark white lab coats or statisticians endlessly crunching numbers on a spreadsheet. But today, we're going to flip that entirely. We're looking at qualitative research as this incredibly dynamic, deeply artistic lens for understanding human behavior. We're going to uncover the hidden rules that govern how we interact, how we live, and ultimately how we make sense of our ridiculously complex world. Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll kick things off with the art of deep understanding. Then, explore how research acts as an art form, and learn exactly how to gather invisible data. After that, we'll ground all this theory in a fascinating case study on the Iranian concept of obru, before wrapping up with how to decode our complex world. Section 1. The art of deep understanding, beyond the numbers. So you might be wondering, why do we even need qualitative research when we already have hard data and advanced statistics? Well, quantitative research focuses on numbers. It counts things. You hand out a multiple choice survey, tally up the results, and boom, you either accept or reject a hypothesis. But qualitative research, it's a whole different ballgame. It uses induction. It builds up from the tiny, messy details on the ground to create this massive, deep understanding of the invisible why behind people's interactions. It's really about capturing the actual meaning living inside people's minds. To pull this off, a researcher has to develop a sort of superpower called theoretical sensitivity. Basically, this is the ability to look at a totally routine, everyday situation and suddenly see the fascinating hidden structures holding it all together. So how do you actually get this sensitivity? You broaden your horizons. You travel to places that give you genuine culture shock. You lean heavily on your own life experiences. You read great literature, think Jack London or Leo Tolstoy, to really grasp the depths of human psychology. You literally train yourself to be a world-class observer. Section 2. Research as an art form. The artistic detective. To bridge the gap between objective science and creative expression, you have to start thinking like an artist. Just like a painter staring down a blank canvas, you go through a process. First, you pick your subject. Then, you frame your inquiry, which really means deciding what makes it inside the picture and what gets left out. You sketch a general design before you even think about filling in the fine details. You carefully compose your data to form a coherent narrative. And most importantly, you choose your perspective, because where you decide to stand entirely dictates what you're going to see. I absolutely love this next thought. This line is from the famous 20th century Iranian poet Parveen Itesami. She reminds us that the entire world is essentially a crystal ball, just completely full of meaning. The meaning is already out there, everywhere, every single day. It's literally just waiting for us to stop talking, open our eyes, and be genuinely good listeners. And we actually see this artistic perspective in action all throughout history. Think about Charles Darwin. When he traveled the world, he wasn't just logging dry data. He was watching animals in the jungle playing and fighting, and he made the creative leap to connect those behaviors to humans. That sparked his whole theory of evolution. Or take the great Russian author Fyodor Dostoevsky. When he was dictating a book about a gambler, his secretary couldn't fathom my character would enjoy being beaten down by losses. Dostoevsky just laughed because he knew that true understanding requires lived experience. Cold logic just doesn't cut it. Section 3. Gathering the invisible data, the unseen clues. Okay, so how do we actually capture this profound understanding out in the real, messy world? If we aren't just handing out questionnaires and asking people to rate their feelings on a scale of 1 to 10, we really have to stop and ask ourselves, what exactly counts as data, and where are we supposed to find it? Here's the thing. Data isn't just numbers on a spreadsheet. It's the unconventional, everyday clues scattered all around us. Data is watching a husband and wife argue over a dirty glass left on a table and interpreting the deeper power dynamics at play. It's analyzing newspaper classified ads for short-term hotel rentals to uncover hidden, even illegal social problems. Ultimately, data is listening to how people interpret their very own lives. As an investigator of human behavior, you'll quickly learn a fascinating and kind of wild truth. The most revealing data usually lives in the empty spaces. It's what people intentionally avoid doing or saying. Like, if you ask a man if his wife bosses him around, his pride might stop him from giving you an honest answer. Or imagine you're at a party. The most crucial piece of data might be noticing which specific married couple absolutely avoids making eye contact with each other the entire night. And remember, context is everything. Take this classic example. An outsider visits an American steel mill and spots a guy sitting perfectly still, doing absolutely no physical labor, while everyone else is busting their backs. To the untrained eye, he looks incredibly lazy. But look through the insider's cultural lens, and we learn he's actually performing a vitally important task. He's intensely monitoring the machinery so he can yank an emergency lever if something catastrophically fails. You have to deeply understand the culture to actually understand the data. Section 4, Case Study, Iranian Abru, the Mask of Society.
Let's dive into an actual ethnographic case study to see how these artistic tools work in the field. We're going to decode a fundamental Iranian concept called Abru. Roughly translated, it means face-saving, social prestige, or social admiration. It is a massive, invisible social force that dictates exactly how people protect their public face and maintain an honorable identity in their society.
Through qualitative research, literally just listening to how ordinary people use the word in daily life, we discover that Abru isn't just one simple idea. It actually operates on 3 completely distinct, complex layers within the society. Let's break down how each layer functions to control and shape human behavior. The first layer of Abru is all about observing norms. It's the immense, everyday pressure to conform. You keep your Abru by blending in and making sure you don't stick out. This means avoiding unusual clothing, or in more traditional settings, women avoiding certain public behaviors like riding a bicycle or smoking. By sticking to these expected scripts, society just runs smoother. People conformed simply to avoid being pointed at or gossiped about. Now, the second layer is much more active. It's about gaining prestige. Here, you protect your Abru by showing off. It's hosting lavish dinner parties, throwing massively expensive weddings, or making absolutely sure you never show up to someone's house empty-handed. You bring valuable gifts to project this powerful image of generosity and high-class status. It's all about gaining active admiration and elevating your standing in the community. But then we get to the third and deepest layer, having unshakable principles. In this sense, maintaining your Abru means being a fundamentally honest, moral person. Someone who lies, cheats, or steals is considered bi-Abru, literally, without face. An Abruman person, however, refuses to compromise their integrity no matter how tough life gets. This layer ties your public face directly to your inner conscience. So, what does this all mean? Ultimately, this brilliant analysis shows us that Abru functions as an intense form of indirect social control. Look, every society needs to regulate behavior, right? Direct control uses formal rules, police, and jails. But indirect control, it uses tradition and social approval. Abru substitutes the physical fear of a jail cell with the deeply ingrained psychological fear of public ridicule and losing your honorable identity. Section 5. Decoding our complex world. Become the ethnographer. Let's bring this powerful tool back to your own life. Modern life isn't just one single culture. You're navigating a maze of overlapping cultural scenes every single day, from your workplace to the gym to your family dinner table. And here's a crazy thought. In complex societies, we actually don't share all our cultural knowledge with everyone around us. Misunderstandings happen constantly because people in the exact same room have totally different definitions of what's happening. But researchers have found that this cognitive non-sharing is exactly what allows society to keep ticking. Just look at a university classroom. The teacher and the student do not share the same definition of the situation at all. The teacher sees the room as a platform to execute a programmed syllabus. The student, they see that exact same room merely as a place to figure out what they need to memorize to pass the next exam. They have totally different cultural definitions of the scene, yet their interaction still works out perfectly. So, taking this new artistic, qualitative perspective, I want to leave you with a challenge. Think about the spaces you inhabit every day. How are you going to decode the invisible rules, the unsaid words, and the hidden cultural scenes hiding in plain sight in your own life? What is the Aberbala of your workplace? What's the unseen data you've been walking right past? Remember, the world itself is a crystal ball. You just have to look closely. Keep observing, and thanks for joining me on this explainer.